Money my motivator, my money maker. No, I don't see the haters, so let go get the paper.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Spare Keys podcast. I'm your host, Shell, and with me today is my co-host, Q.
Hey, what up, everybody?
And today's podcast is themed around following your passion and finding a way to be the best for you while following your dreams. So, to kick this off, I think the number one goal is I just want to talk about following your passion in general. No matter whether that's being a chef, a musician, a writer, anything that you want to be, like we got to stop limiting what a person's dream can be. They're not just NFL players and ball players no more. It's limited possibilities of what somebody can be.
Right. Yeah, I'd agree. I think with following your passion, like the thing you got to figure out is what is it that you want to do. I mean, that's a tough question to answer, obviously, because there's so many things in this world to do. But like, it's like, what do you like to do? It's like, I think the easiest thing would be to like figure out, okay, what is it I like to do? Now, how can I monetize it? Right. Like, I like video games, obviously. I think you do too.
Oh yeah.
One of the things you can do to monetize video games is obviously to be like a video game tester or something like that. Or I've even seen now where people hire you for freelance jobs because, like we were talking about last episode, I think, where kids are watching people play or watching other people play video games, right? So, like, one of the things I've also seen is, like, let's say, like, the game is Minecraft, right? You want somebody to build you something in Minecraft. You can hire somebody for freelance work in Minecraft to come into your world and build for you.
That's crazy, but that's something you can do. That's amazing, to be 100% honest. A way to monetize playing a video game and just doing something you enjoy and being good at.
Exactly, right? Just doing something that you're already doing in the first place, and then you just find a way to make money from it. It's not so much about really finding what your passion is, because you can be passionate about everything that you do, to be honest with you. Like,
yeah, that's true.
But it's about thinking of ways to monetize things you're already doing. Like,
It's kind of how I fell into my coaching business, Like I've always been passionate about football and sports in general. I used to want to be one of those NFL players, and when I went from that, I knew I always wanted to coach. The biggest turnaround for me was at the time when I left Greensboro College. I didn't have my bachelor's degree or anything like that. And I know to be a coach at a college program, typically you need a 4-year degree. So my next bet was, Pop Warner, high school level, things like that. And even then, some of those organizations, depending on where you are, there are a lot of politics that go into it. And I found private coaching on accident. And I found a whole new world of where you can make money at and still be passionate about what you do. So that's how I became a one-on-one trainer and a small group trainer with football, was through a series to me of like accidents that kept leading me along my passion, and it just helped me get to where I am now.
Right. So you just kind of fell into it, and it just became something you just kept doing over and over again.
Yeah, it was, like I said, there was no plan into it. I never once thought, oh, I'm going to be a private football trainer. I'm going to have me something like the IMG Academy or Phase One Sports in Vegas. I didn't know I was going to be doing something like this. And it's turned into a passion. My passion for coaching, my passion for football turned into this opportunity. And now this opportunity is just continue to grow the more I develop and the more I learn. So that's exactly what you're talking about, making a profit off your passion or making a profit off what you love. They go hand in hand with me, especially in this venture right here.
Yeah, because I think we talked about it last time. I think you were even having doubts about, even doing the coaching thing. So, you just finally said, forget it. I'll just do it.
Oh yeah. It took taking a leap. And that's what a lot of people don't get. Like we have a lot of anxieties, you have a lot of fears, you have a lot of doubts. You're gonna have a lot of things telling you not to do something. But I think my favorite, I love quoting Steve Harvey, I guess. My favorite thing I've heard him say is your passion or your talent is something that you do the best with the least amount of effort. And when it comes to me, football, coaching, and just talking to people about how to improve things they're doing, it's one of my better things. Like I can always psychoanalyze a situation from the outside and give a perspective and a way to help a person. a lot better sometimes than I can my own self. And
Right.
football
Yeah.
coaching kind of encompasses that. I'm watching what you do right and what you do wrong and helping you correct the issues to become a better player.
Exactly. You develop a mindset of teaching. Basically, you. I mean, obviously, you play football for most of your life, right? You've
Yeah, good
been a
portion of it.
football player since probably single digits in your life,
Yeah.
and with that comes a lot of experience to teach people who are obviously in the situation you were in before. Now to explain to them, hey, this is what's going on with you. This is how it should be done. Or this is you can clearly watch from the outside and see what a person is doing
Oh
better
yeah.
than you can examine yourself for the most part.
I told a lot of people like my biggest struggles as a player is not that I'm not coachable. I'm very coachable, and I will learn a technique and I'll learn something, but coaches never explained to me why. And that used
Right.
to bother me all the time. Like, don't tell me to do something a certain way and not tell me why.
Why I'm doing it exactly.
So
Because
when I got into this, that became my big thing. I'm gonna tell you how to do it, and I'm gonna tell you why you need to do it.
because it doesn't make sense if you're trying to explain to somebody, what it is that they need to be doing, but you're not explaining to them why they need to do it, like how it can help them. Then for the most part, they don't care about it. That's like the general rule of people.
Oh yeah. Like I said, my biggest thing, like my first original slogan, I guess you can say, for my business was experience exposes potential, because I wanted to use my experiences to help get the best potential or the most potential out of somebody else.
Right.
And then I settled on playmakers amazing preparation, as I felt that was more appropriate. The more you prepare for something, the more you put yourself in a situation, especially in sports, to make a play. So it didn't matter, like Deion Sanders and them say, the play don't care who make it. So the guy who's the most prepared for that situation that happens is typically the guy that's going to make the play in that situation. Doesn't matter if it's your first time being on the field or you've been on the field 100 games. If you're the most prepared for a situation that occurs, you're going to be the person 9 times out of 10 that makes the play.
Absolutely. Because to be real with you, all the stats that LeBron James puts up, like it's not that work is not put in that game.
Oh no, it's
That
practices, tons of practices.
Yeah, that work is definitely put in way before he even sees the court. Like LeBron, people saw LeBron James really for the first time when he came to the Cavaliers, when he came to professional basketball, but he'd been training for that his whole life.
Yeah, he had a vision. He had a purpose. He knew that basketball is what he was good at. God gave him some talents and all that you couldn't deny. And he had a goal. He wanted to get his mom out the situation she was in. I don't think he ever thought he was going to go from high school straight to the league, but he felt like basketball could take him somewhere.
Yeah, he definitely did. I mean, he uses a vehicle as much as he can, and as you can see now, what he's doing. Not only did he follow his passion, obviously, to be a basketball player, but now he's branched out beyond that. He's a TV personality. He's a mogul, an entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist. He's opened schools for kids, man. Provided all kinds of programs for him. It's just giving back to his community as much as possible.
Oh yeah, and I know this is a topic we're going to touch on just a little further in this podcast. But like you said, he's a business owner. He has a great mindset about how he constructs things. If you look at his teammates that he had in high school, some of his closest friends, he didn't leave those guys behind. He brought them on with him. He brought them with him, taught them skill sets to help them envision whatever their passions were, and allowed them to eat also. He didn't leave them behind and said, all right, I got out, figure your way out. He got out following his passion, brought his team with him, and allowed his team to have a platform to follow theirs. And now all of them are sitting in a 6-figure plus room just talking about the good old days back in Akron, Ohio.
I think that's dope. I really do. But I also think there's a limit to that, right? Like I'm not about to sit in a room with you and teach you the game, and you're not trying to use the game, right? Which is dope, because clearly his friends were all about it, right?
Oh yeah.
He came back to him, provided the blueprint, and they ran with it. It was probably one of the dopest friendship groups I've ever seen. But like, There's a lot of people that you, to be real with you, 100. If you tell 100 people what they can do to escape whatever trauma they're facing right now, and get their life back on track, or even improve their life, out of 100, 1% of people will do it.
Oh yeah, I definitely know what you're talking about, and that's why our next topic was going to be putting yourself first, because it's important to have a team, but you can't help a team, you can't help another person until you help yourself. So, like I said, you want to find your passion, you want to follow your passion, and you want to keep working that passion, but you can't try to bring everybody with you until you have a stable platform to stand on yourself. And that's why I think LeBron, if we keep using him as the example, I don't think he tried to bring everybody with him, let's say his rookie year or his rookie contract. I think he waited until he got cemented and he gave people the tools. I don't think he drug them along, but he gave them that ladder and let them figure it out themselves from there. But like I said, in this world, you have to learn how to put yourself first. And a lot of us struggle with that. I struggled with that for the longest. And I've honestly just got to a place where I'm starting to put myself first. I'm still working on it at times, but you have to start doing it because your health, your mindset, everything that happens around you on a daily basis, if you're not taking care of yourself and you're only taking care of everybody else, eventually you're going to start to crack and crumble, and you're going to mentally deplete yourself or physically deplete yourself and end up in a place that you don't even know how you got there.
No, yeah, I agree, definitely. Because, I mean, the hardest thing about working hard is maintaining yourself while you're doing it, right? Like, you, if you grind it every day going super hard, like, there's not a whole lot of things, like the slightest thing could deter you from doing something you actually have to get done that day. You know what I mean? Like, shoot, being one of the biggest struggles now is like, I drink, for the most part, I drink a gallon of water every day. If I don't have that gallon of water, essentially what's going to happen to me is I'm going to be dehydrated, like even in the slightest. I just feel like this change in, I just feel like this change in, like, physically. It just,
Yeah.
I can't even begin to describe how much mentally it disturbs me.
Oh yeah. But it's like me. I have a 40-ounce water bottle I have, or like a can, or well, I don't know. It's kind of like a Yeti or whatever. But I drink that pretty much just daily. And one, it gives me a sense of accomplishment when I finish it. And two, when you don't drink it or you don't, and you have half a bottle left of it in the day, you have that mindset of what did you do all day? Why did you neglect it? It makes you reflect on what you were doing. So you got to take that same mindset to your goals. You know what you want to be, you know where you're trying to go. So maybe write a list, maybe chart it out, but figure out what you got to do stepwise to get towards your goals. And if you aren't able to mark anything off that list that day, then ask yourself, what did you spend that day doing? Did you do anything progressive towards your goal, or did you waste that day doing something that is either A, going to keep you stagnant, or B, take you back? Staying stagnant, it's not that bad. I mean, it's not the best thing in the world because you're not moving forward, but you never want to do anything that honestly is going to hurt your cause or hurt your progression in life.
To be straight with you, man, I don't really believe in staying stagnant. Like, law of conservation of energy basically says that, energy is not a lost nor destroyed, right? Like, it's only transferred. So I don't believe you can sit at the same position, right? Like, my thing is, you're either getting worse or you're getting better.
Yeah. Touche, I get
Like,
you on that.
I just don't think that, like, you sitting there, essentially anything that deters you kind of becomes a deterrent, right? Like, it becomes something you fixate on, whether that be like watching a TV show or playing too many video games. It's something that keeps you away from what you need to be doing,
Yeah.
right? So, like, essentially, the more you get invested in things like that, the more they take away your time, the more they eat at you. Because, I mean, obviously, everybody knows somebody that watches multiple TV shows, and they're like, "Oh, I got to catch up on this, catch up on this." And TV shows ain't short nowadays; they hours of your time. You sit down, you watch 2 shows or a movie. It's an hour and 30 minutes, hour and 40 minutes you could have spent, working on your business.
Exactly. But I ain't gonna lie. Like my show right now, I know it's only 10 episodes. I came onto the train a little bit late. I watched the Wu-Tang show on Hulu. That's 46 minutes an episode. 46 minutes. You throw in commercials, that's an hour. What else can I have done progressive in that hour? Now I'm not saying don't have downtime and don't sometimes have something to alleviate stress or relieve yourself, but you got to be very conscious of what you spend your time doing.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Like, there's no way around it. Like, a lot of people spend a lot of time doing things that, and myself included, doing things that don't really benefit them in any way. I mean, I can understand you got to take care of yourself in other ways besides like, eating right, drinking a bunch of water, but like you do sometimes need that time to check out mentally and, unwind and relax and gather your thoughts, right? Like you can't always be going at 100 because shoot, man, you'll break yourself down like that. If you always moving and you don't make, especially like maintenance, right? If you're a car, you drive 100 miles every day, right?
Yeah.
And eventually you're going to need that oil change. If you don't get it, that engine's going to shut down. That car is going to be useless. That's exactly what happens to people. So I don't fault you. I don't fault people for, taking the time away and, getting their life together. If you have to check out, you got to check out. It just is what it is. But you can't check out forever.
No. Like, what is it? My biggest stress reliever. I don't want to call it a stress reliever, but my biggest thing I used to do downtime wise was when I was working the retail job. I come home, I do the retail job. I maybe train a couple clients. I come home. It's a long day. I either have to go in and close the store the next day, so I'm not going to work till 1 or 2, or maybe I'm off. I might stay up that night and I just want to sit outside on my balcony. Sometimes I'm sitting outside on my balcony. I might smoke a cigar. Sometimes I might rarely have like a drink out there with me. But it's typically time that I sit out there. I'm playing music. I'm not even listening to the music. I'm just laying there in my little lounge chair, relaxing and just letting my body decompress. Just giving myself time to relax and maybe mentally just work through everything I have going on and just letting my mind, like a computer hard drive, defrag itself. Just let it sort out and let yourself breathe. And I mean, like, truly breathe and relax. And a lot of people don't do that when they're on 1,000 all the time. When you're staying on 1,000 and you're like, I got to get to where I need to be. I got to get to this goal. I got to obtain this. You start overlooking steps in the process. You start getting frustrated in the process, and it starts making this journey even harder for you. When sometimes if you can just take a second, breathe, recollect yourself, maybe you notice the step you miss, or maybe you notice a step you need to add in to get to where you want to go.
No, yeah, I agree. It's always good to stop and reevaluate your plan. I mean, if you think about it, like, you may decide once you start running in a direction, that's not the direction you want to go anymore. You might not have to completely, change direction, but you might want to, put some extra steps in there, go here first, and then, go to where you originally intended to go. Or you might just decide, this is not what I want altogether anyway.
Oh, yeah. What was it? We were talking about college the last podcast. How many kids go to college, enroll in a degree program, and realize halfway through their major, this isn't the major they want to do? And I'm saying a lot of kids feel stuck in that.
Right. No, I agree. I feel like a lot of kids when they go to college, they really have no idea what they want to do. Which is honestly kind of a problem to be. If I'm speaking from my opinion, it's like, why would you go to college? And it's like a lot of parents say, okay, well, you'll figure out who you are when you get to college. You'll figure out what you want after you go to college. I'm like, well, why would you spend all this money to figure out who you are? Like, you sending your kid to college, you either taking out loans or you paying out of pocket, or you got a scholarship, which is great. But like, it's like you're using all this money to go to this place to figure out who you are when you could just literally do that. At home. Yeah.
At home.
And this is probably another subject, but like, I think a lot of black parents like really are pushing their kids out of the house at a I don't know at an early rate, I guess.
Yeah,
Because to be honest with you, I feel like most parents is like as soon as you're 18, you either got to get a job or get out of my house. Whatever.
I think we've all heard that over 100 times. It's that countdown. When you're 18, you're grown. When you're 18, you're your own man. When you want to
Right.
start making your own decisions, you have to start taking care of yourself. And the funny thing, because you bring that up, and it probably will be a podcast for another day.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, there are more people who graduate college or more people who are in college that go back home and live with their parents and or vice versa, find a way to get their parents to relocate and live with them. And I mean working class parents. I don't mean parents that are old and can't take care of themselves, but working class parents and people are living in multifamily homes like they used to back in the day where you grew up in this house, you lived in that house until somebody died and then you took it over. It's like that
Right.
way of living is coming back around full circle because of how inflation and everything else is impacting the market. A dollar ain't what it used to be, and everybody's trying to get the most out of their money now.
Yeah, bro. That's because that's essentially how it was. Like, and back in the day, man, when you essentially back in the day, like a long time ago, in the times of sharecroppers and farmers and whatnot, when pretty much everybody was living off the land for the most part, you had kids as an insurance policy. So like either you needed people to work your farm or you needed somebody to take care of you when you got old. That's essentially what it was. And now it's like, all right, people are having kids and they're like, okay, well you like, and at some point either they get tired of having the kids around or like I can't really explain to you what it is, but they push them out of the nest. Like, okay, hey, I'm going back to I had kids. I'm going back to living my best life. It's like I feel
Yeah,
like a bunch of parents had kids before they were really ready to have kids. And I mean, granted, nobody's really ever ready to have kids, but
yeah.
it's like they had these unexpected
They want that.
children.
They want that empty nest status again. They want to know what it's like to be free and not have
Right,
anybody rely on them again.
right. They want their freedom back, even though it was their decisions ultimately that caused them to lose their freedom in the first place. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. All right. I guess we can get a little bit back. I mean, we're still on topic. We're going down a little rabbit hole that we can always do another day. But like I said, it
Yeah,
ties back into putting yourself first. So like I said, you got to know the linear line of your goals and understand. Just like a tree has branches, your goals will probably evolve and have branches. So you might have a main goal, but you're always going to have side steps to it. You're always going to have something like I'll take my business and I don't mind laying it out there because I have an evolving plan as I go. Right now, I train kids at parks and stuff like that. Like we train in an open setting. My goal one day is to have my own full fledged facility. That
right.
facility, for now, the mindset I have, I don't need a huge one for what I want to do right now. I just need something that can comfortably, in my mind, train 4 or 5 people at a time. And that, like I said, that's a small little warehouse. My end goal, I would love to have a full fledged giant facility where I'm not a big box gym, but I can accommodate a team of people and
Yeah,
it's a plan. So yes, I have a big goal and I have smaller goals, and everything's a goal to grow my tree, make my tree branch out and be bigger. I don't get rid of my small gym because I get my big gym now. I expand and I keep them both. I may work more on one than the other, but you keep creating different avenues, you keep creating different spaces, and you continue to evolve.
I think in your particular profession, like it's a little bit hard to have a facility like that, especially when so like you're training for an outdoor sport. What would be the point of going indoors to train for an outdoor sport?
Oh, for me, the whole point of having the indoor is just for like the rainy days and stuff like that. Like I love training outside. Having a weather play a part of what we do as far as training wise, it's very important. But I also tell my clients we won't train on a raining day. Like if it rains while we're out there, oh, then that's tough. We're gonna go through it. But if
Yeah,
it's pouring down in the forecast, and I know it is, we won't train that day because I want to teach you at your optimal best. So if I'm teaching you about footwork, I want you to teach you about footwork when your footwork can be at its best. and then we can adjust and adapt to inclement weather. But I can't get on you about where you're placing your feet as hard if I don't have a firm base for it. So I
Right.
want
Yeah.
a facility for, like I said, for the real rainy days, or God forbid, this North Carolina, with us, when it snows in January, February, those couple of rough days, I can have a place where we're indoors, tucked away, and I can keep drilling them, keep coaching you hard.
Yeah, I agree. So just a couple questions. I know we're getting on topic here. How so with the indoor facility, I assume you want like a turf or like a
Yeah, it'll be like a type of AstroTurf type scenario.
okay. So your goal is basically to have indoor facility with turf. And at what point do you practice like those drills that require more space on the inside, or like do you have like I would assume you'd have like a dual facility where there's like an outside area and an inside area for situations where you got to obviously do kickoffs or
Yeah,
wide
yeah.
receiver drills, stuff like that.
Yeah, the goal essentially would be to be on a couple acres of land. Essentially, I'd say probably 2-3 acres, nothing super huge, but something enough space where I can set up plenty of different areas. Because honestly, to set a field goal post that takes up some space and stuff like that. But the main goal for the building itself would be indoor, like speed training and
Hmm.
weightlifting, and maybe some rehab work. So indoors would be specifically set on just like those type of things. We're either gonna be doing strength training, speed work, or maybe just like maybe throwing some balls and catching, or doing like drills like that, like receiver type drills, maybe some offensive defensive line 1-on-ones, depending on weather. But everything else, like true route running, true throwing, true kicking, all that will be done outside. Like I want to run
Right.
quarterback 1-on-ones with receivers and DBs outside, because wind is going to be a factor in it, especially the
Right.
kids and stuff I'm coaching. I'm not coaching anybody right now in the NFL. So I'm not coaching anybody that's playing in a dome. So you're not
Hmm.
going to play in perfect 70-degree weather. So I want you to be used to throwing a ball that has moisture on it from the dew, or get used to being out there in the hot sun, especially in North Carolina where we know in the summers, oh, we hot.
Right. 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 I'd agree. I'd agree. I'd agree. 100%. Sounds like you put them through a very stringent process.
Oh yeah, I definitely work on my tell everybody my process when building an athlete. I always build them from the ground up. So every time I work out with somebody, we're doing footwork, then we're doing position drills, and then the whole time we're doing this, I'm telling you like why we do this. Like I don't care if we do the speed ladder 1,500 times. I guarantee you, every time we do it, I can give you another coaching point on why we do something. Because my whole goal is to get you to have everything you do second nature.
Right. Yeah. Because consistency is key. The more you do something, the essentially the more you burn it into your mind. Like, and my coach used to always tell me like before you do a drill, like even when you're not doing it, like envision yourself doing it in your mind like over and over again, so that it just becomes second nature. And then it came to a point I would do that, right, and he'd be calling plays, or they call changes in formation. It was just muscle memory,
Oh yeah,
like not even thinking about it. I'd hear the words and I'd snap to it just like that. Not a problem.
yeah. That's the real big goal. I try to teach these the youth that I work with. You got to be prepared for everything. So like, I have almost everyone I coach. They either joke about trying to get me on their staff as their position coach. I have a couple kids that want me to be like their head coach, because the way I coach them and the way I drill them, they don't do it. They don't practice that way. And they're like, why don't we learn this? And I'm like, I can't attest why another coach runs this program a certain way. But I'm
Right.
always going to teach you. I'm gonna teach you for the day, but I want to give you things for tomorrow. So I'm gonna teach you what you need to know, and I want you to learn some things that you can apply to your game to make you better tomorrow.
Right, exactly. You take things with you that you carry out, and then you can improve upon. Because essentially, my philosophy on friendships, relationships, like in general, like even professional relationships, like right when you encounter somebody, like your goal is not to just interact with that person, for the one time. Like your goal is to change them, and not let me rephrase it, not to change them, but to give them a new outlook, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, just um, your goal, like I said, yeah, your goal is to give somebody a new outlook on what they're doing. So essentially, you want to give them a new way of looking at things, and not necessarily. So like, okay, you don't want to. What happens is if you just tell somebody what to do over and over again, and you don't explain to them why they're doing it, you create that like that I guess for lack of a better description, it's like to me it's like an employee mindset.
Yeah.
You just do what I tell you to do. If you teach somebody how to think, they can go out there and do it on their own, and even if you never see them again, they can continue to improve because now they can think about it and understand it and know it.
Like what you just said, honestly, is 1,000% correct. How many times have we've had coaches or parents or people, period, when you ask them why you need to do something, they tell you because I said
Because I
so.
said so.
It doesn't allow you to process the reason behind it. So when I tell a kid we need to turn over this shoulder versus this shoulder because X, Y, and Z, they process that. I don't know how many times I've watched a kid, if I just tell them, hey, don't plant your foot there, and they continue to do it and they'll mess up and they'll try to adjust, but they don't know why they're adjusting. They're just trying to force yourself to do it. But then I
Right,
can take that same kid and I'll say, hey, we plant our feet like this when we're cutting this way for this reason. They take it
right,
wholeheartedly and they're like, oh, this is a real adjustment I can make because of X, Y, and Z. It's not just because it doesn't look right with me sticking here or putting this. It makes more sense to them. You get more connection to it. So it's not just a law or a rule. It's something they feel they can really apply.
exactly. Because if you don't tell them the reason why, then they just associate it with that one time they do it. So like if it's a slant route or something they're supposed to cut their feet a specific way for a slant route, and they so essentially you can apply that to multiple routes just because. So the way you plant your feet determines the direction you're going. So like they can apply that to every route, and as soon as you explain to them why they're doing it, they can then think, okay, oh, this is the same direction, this is the same type of route, or this is the same anything, right? And then I can now apply it to this and this and this and that, and it makes sense. So and also on the flip side, they now know when a route doesn't look like that, that they shouldn't do it that way.
Exactly, exactly. Like just staying on topics of receivers. I know we're getting way down the line in my business and all that. But like
Yeah,
receivers, when I'm coaching a receiver, the first thing we always work on is the stance and the release. So your first three steps essentially coming out of your receiver stance. And I know the receivers run what's called a route tree. So it's literally when you draw it out, it looks like a ugly Christmas tree.
right,
I always explain to them your first three steps coming out of this, depending on what the route is called, all has to look the same. I was like, I don't want a tip. I don't. If you're going deep, I don't need you bent over in a track sprinting stance. Or if you're coming on something short, I don't want you leaning back too far to slow yourself down. I need you to come out and look the same every time. And I had a
right,
kid who was a very good receiver. He never made an adjustment because none of his coaches made him do it because he's always just been better at people at running routes and getting open. He's always been a fast kid. He never understood why. And when I explained it to him and I showed him that even at my older age, I can cover him because he gives away his routes by how his body language is. And I told him it's an advantage. Yeah, you're beating competition today, but you're not going to beat the man that's prepared and is able to analyze what you're doing. I was like, if he can
right,
look at your body language and say, oh, he's not running anything short, he's going deep, that eliminates a third, 2/3 of the tree.
exactly,
He knows what three routes that you're potentially going to run. That makes his job so much easier. And that's how I tell people, you got to prepare the way you expect things to happen. So sometimes you prepare to be in perfect conditions. Sometimes you prepare to be in bad conditions. But whatever you're prepared for, that's the results you're giving yourself a chance to get. You want good results, you got to prepare for both. You can't just do things one way and expect everything to be perfect.
no, you certainly can't. You certainly can't because just like you said, just because okay, kids clearly got talent. He's obviously fast, right? His body is built for speed.
Oh yeah.
But the second he comes up against somebody that's essentially going to outsmart him, there's nothing he could do. It's like it's like in chess, right? The queen is the most powerful piece on the board. It essentially combines two of the better pieces in the game into one super piece. But as soon as you put the queen in a bad position, that's it. Like a lot of players, of chess, like especially if they have no foresight, like if they have no knowledge of their opponent, they put themselves in awkward positions, and then they end up losing pieces because they're essentially not thinking ahead, not thinking about what they're doing.
Yeah,
And it's just like athletics, right? You have raw talent, sure. Like you can be the fastest person on the block any day, but as soon as somebody figures out what you're doing, like anytime somebody knows your next move, you already lost. Like it's not a competition anymore. It's
exactly.
just you getting your ass whooped.
I tell everybody, I'm very good. Naturally, I have what's I call a photogenic memory. So I see something or I go through something once, especially if we talk about in the game of sports. If you get me with a screen pass the first time, you won't be able to get it again for the rest of the game because I've seen it now and I know how it plays out. And like I said, so when we practice and when I prepare kids, I prepare you for every scenario I can. So when you're in a game and you see it, you already know how to adapt to it on the fly. Like I coach a offensive lineman. This kid is a monster. Kid is 6'4", 280, chiseled. Might be I would say between 260 and 280. It depends on what scale he steps on, but he's a very large kid. And he's a true freshman. They wanted him on varsity, but I'm not gonna lie, just because I know when I got him, he was raw. He didn't have the footwork to play on varsity, and I told him if he moved to varsity because he had the size, that he shouldn't play offensive tackle. He should move to guard. I said, but if you want to develop as a player for the long term, stay on JV and let me teach you how to play tackle. So that's what he's done. He stayed on JV. He's a dominant left tackle. And every time we work together, he's getting better and better about finishing plays and being in the right position. And honestly, I feel like just from seeing his varsity play, if I took this kid out there next year as a sophomore, he would dominate on varsity because of what he's prepared for versus what those kids that just had natural ability got thrown into.
Right? Yeah, because a lot of times, because we're talking about high school, right?
Yeah, high school.
Yeah, a lot of times high school coaches kind of like, okay, well, this boy's good. You know, we got to get him on the team right now. We got to put him out here and make some plays off of him, boy. Yeah, but for the most part, like for the most part, those cats, those cats. I mean, they don't really teach you how to think about the game, right? Like I got through all of high school playing football. I never learned anything in our playbook. To be real with you, like to be completely honest with you, I learned my position, but I never knew why my position was important. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, obviously, I get tackles or I'm blocking opponents, but like, I never saw the big picture. You know what I mean? I never understood why there was a certain, you know, a certain shuffle or a certain step or certain hand placement or anything. I just played my position. I did what I was supposed to do, and I tried to help my team win. That was it.
Yeah. And
Which is, which. Okay, well, go ahead. Sorry, my
oh
bad.
no, you're fine. I was about to say I think that's like the blessing in disguise for me. Like athletically, I've had a lot of people tell me I was good athletically, and the fact that I was recruited collegiately, I will sit here and pat myself on the back and say yes, I was a good football player. But I never played the same position 2 years in a row, and that hurt me when it came to D1 colleges. But D2 and D3 didn't care; they saw it as versatility. So I think that's what helped me with my business venture. Like I learned so many different positions, and then since I got into the coaching side of it, I took what I was told to do and I did the research and learning behind it myself to figure out why it was important. I had some coaches that broke it down. I had a great coach named Coach Ray at Athens Driving High School. He was the first coach I had to break a lot of stuff down to why hand placement was important and why kick sliding or cutting at this angle was the best. But I had a lot of other coaches that were literally, when this happens, you need to have your ass over here right now. And that was all the coaching I got out of it.
Right. If this, then that.
Yep. So when you take the approach that I have towards my, like I said, my business, it's being prepared. And I tell kids all the time, that's all I want you to do. I want you to be prepared. So I tell like Tristan, that's the bigger offensive tackle's name. When I coach him to play left and right tackle, I could just coach him to play left tackle. That's what he is in high school on his JV team. He's a left tackle. That's what he'll probably be all through high school, as a left tackle. When he gets recruited to play in college, though, what if he goes to a big D1 program and they have an NFL prospect at left tackle? He's not playing left tackle. He might be second or third on the depth chart as a true freshman at left tackle. But because I make him learn how to play left and right tackle, he might be a starting true freshman at right tackle because he's the best prospect at that. And when that next guy graduates or gets drafted, guess what he does? He transitions over. It's all about being prepared. You never know what situations you're going to be placed in.
Exactly. Because I mean, when you make that jump to the next level, like the pond gets smaller. Like all of a sudden you start seeing people that are as good as you, or if not better than you, like come out of the woodworks and play. That's why you see a bunch of those college stars, or even the guys you knew in high school that were stars at that high school, even in your division. As soon as they go to college, it's like, okay, boom, it's a bunch of guys that are just as good as you, if not better. And as soon as they make that jump from college to professional, like same thing, they disappear. People like JJ Redick was a beast when he was at Carolina, but then as soon as
he was at Duke, I don't want you to get
Duke,
killed.
right? Yeah, dude. my fault. I was like, hold on, wait a minute. Let me reevaluate the team. But yes, like when he was at Duke, he went from the collegiate level to the professional level, and he just got killed because it's like I feel like if you were a star at a certain level, you stop at some point. You stop working on your game like as hard as you really need to work to move to that next level.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
You get a sense of complacency or whatever.
Yeah.
But like you said, the higher up you move, the smaller that pond gets. And I think, especially as far as people that watch the game and maybe had never played it, or maybe never played it beyond a certain level, when your all stars move on to the collegiate level, they're playing everybody else's all stars. When your all stars get drafted and go to the NFL, or they make it to the NFL level, period. Now you're talking about the all star from high school that was an all star in college. Now he's on the highest level. He's playing against all-star talent, all-world talent. He's the best of the best that was exposed. I'm not going to say he's the best ever, because there's a lot of people that don't get the opportunity to be seen, but he's the best of the known people at that position on that level. These are absolute monsters and freak athletes that make it look easy. And people underestimate a lot of that work, that time, that dedication, and what that skill level is.
I think a lot of people overestimate their talent for the most part, because it's like, you see a lot of guys that are just kind of naturally good at ball, and they feel like, okay, I'm gonna go to college, I'm gonna play ball, and they get there, and all of a sudden, there's a bunch of guys just like you that are just as talented as you. They've been working harder than you for a long time. Like, I think at a smaller level, like, because I mean, I went to 1A school, right? So I went to the smallest division in North Carolina, right? So
Yeah.
not a whole. First of all, not a whole lot of kids at my school. No, that's number one. So on top of there being like a very small pool, the other schools we're facing is the same situation, right? It's just not a lot of people in the pool. At a 2A level, it's almost as if two 1A schools combined, and there's a whole lot more kids there, a whole lot more to pick from the pond. It lets you know early that, hey, you need to work a whole lot harder to get to where you need to be. But what I saw from my standpoint was that, okay, well, I'm better than everybody here. I must be better than everybody else that's out there in the world, which is clearly untrue, because I don't think there was even one person who from my school that I can remember off the top of my head that actually went to college, played ball, and eventually started. You know what I mean? Not saying like he jumped out there freshman year, but like we're talking about like sophomore, junior, like, or even really got that much playing time at the collegiate level.
What was it like? Take my high school. I played 4A, and then I play in a city, Raleigh. Raleigh is fucking packed with 4A schools. Now, I was a starter as a sophomore. I was a rotational player as a junior, and I pretty much was a rotational player as a senior due to some circumstances and this and that. But that pool is freaking filled with athletes, freak athletes at schools, and like you said, these different divisions at let's say my school, my graduating class, I think was around 700 ish. And that was after they built another high school, because when I originally started there, we had about 1,200 people in my class.
Right.
So that's bigger than, like you said, that's probably bigger than a 1A's like 2 or 3 classes put together graduating in my
Exactly.
one graduating class. It's you're, like I said, you're as good as your competition. And if you think of a small phrases, if you put a shark in a fish tank, and I'm talking about like a baby shark in a fish tank, they'll stop growing because of their environment. A shark does not want to outgrow its environment, or else it can't move, therefore it can't live. So if you get and think you're the best of the best in your small environment, then that's all you'll ever be. You got to realize once you're growing in your situation that sometimes it's time to go off to deeper waters and go to a bigger pool and test yourself there. And you got to continue to test yourself going forward to continue to grow and develop. You can't just, I'm not going to say you can't, but it's too often that we get satisfied being the big fish in a small pond, and we never live up to what potential we could have truly had.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head right there. Because a lot of the time, being from a small town, you know what I mean? I graduated with, I think, 80 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's my graduating class. I had never known anything like, clearly you've seen where I'm from.
Yeah.
I live in a town with one stop. I used to live in a town with one stoplight. That's where I grew up. All we had was a Walmart. Like, literally what we would do for fun on like a Friday night or a Saturday night, like we would just go to Walmart and hang out because it was 24 hours and we could just, kind of mess around with our friends or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And that was all we had, aside from like trekking like 45 minutes to an hour to Fayetteville to like attempt to go to a club, right, or something like that. But it's like the second I went to college and got out in the world and like really realized how big it was and the things I could see, the things I didn't know, like it's crazy the amount of stuff I've learned since then. Like if I could talk to, I'm 28 now. If I could talk to 18-year-old me right now, I'd be like, yo, the world is wild, fam. Like, like if I could just explain the things that I've seen and what I know, and like it would change my life completely.
Oh, yeah. I tell everybody my biggest thing is, like I said, my parents weren't together growing up, so I grew up in 2 different cities. And when I left college, I went back to my mom's city, which is a smaller area, it's New Bern, North Carolina. Shout out 252, everybody. Growing up there, it's not hard for me to be one of the top people there. Like, it's not hard for me to be, like, I guess, like that inspiration for some people to look up to, but it's not hard for me to feel like I'm living better than everybody else if I'm trying to compare lifestyles. But the minute I take that lifestyle and I compare it to how people are living in Raleigh, that lifestyle ain't the best that it could be. So now I live back in Raleigh, and I've just learned, if you limit your mindset, you truly limit what you're ever going to accomplish.
I agree. I think for the most part though, it's a parent's responsibility to broaden the child's mind. I mean, because if you're born into an environment where the pond is small, right, and you have no concept of what's like, okay, so if a goldfish is dropped into a fish tank that's in somebody's house, it's like a foot by foot fish tank just full of water. Like they have no concept of an ocean or a stream or a lake or anything bigger than that. They have no idea what the world is. They've never seen it before.
Yeah.
Like, and for the most part, you just don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? Like you're put in a situation where you can't really fathom what it is because you've never seen it before. It's like the first time you eat sushi, like you never seen it before. Like, all right, what is this food? Oh, let me. I might give it a shot. I might not. Like my dad right now, he thinks sushi. He thinks all sushi is raw fish. He doesn't know that you can actually get cooked sushi. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
don't have to eat like sashimi, which is that would like sashimi is what most people think sushi is, right? People think that you're just eating raw fish. Sashimi is just like that raw, like super raw, like a piece of cut fish.
Yeah.
Like a sushi roll is more something like they just kind of design it for you. It's like eating a salad for the most part. Or you can get something that's like tempura, which means it's fried or cooked, you know,
Yeah.
and that's a different form of sushi. So it's like it's just a different style of eating and not necessarily the weird thing. I think I just introduced my dad to like to Hispanic food like a few months ago for real, for real. Like I took him out to eat to this place that just popped up in Clinton. And I think for the first time he like really realized, you know what I mean, oh this is actually pretty good. Let's come here more often. I'm like, well you could have been had this. Like
Oh yeah.
instead of eating like fried chicken and mashed potatoes all the time, you could have been had these chilaquiles and whatnot, fam.
Right. I love a good ACP.
Bro, who you telling?
But what was like your goldfish analogy? And I'm going back to I'm going Uncle Steve. I'm just gonna go ahead and refer him. He tells a story about fleas. You know, fleas have great leaping ability. And then he was like, you know, one day, well, if you caught these two fleas, you put them in a jar, put the lid on it. These fleas have been jumping around all their life, knowing they can jump many, many feet high, but you put them in a jar. So now when they jump, they keep hitting their head on the top of that jar and falling back down to the bottom. He says after doing that a bunch of times, eventually they'll realize they can't out jump that jar. So then they'll stop jumping that high. So now these two fleas they mate, they have babies. These fleas watch their parents jump and realize that their parents only go to the roof of the jar and they stop. So they've only seen what their parents can do. They've never seen what their full capabilities are. So they've only watched their parents. They only watched their parents in this one environment. So if you took the lid off the jar, these fleas are so trained now that they won't even attempt to jump out the jar because they don't think they can because they don't know a life where they could. And like you said, parents have to expose kids to better opportunities and show them there's something more than where they're growing up or something more than what they're doing themselves.
I feel you. I feel you because it's a weird cycle where that happens. It's like, all right, you're born into this environment, right? Now, like you said, where the fleas are jumping, but they're not getting anywhere. Like, but the problem is none of the fleas in that jar have any concept of what's outside their jar or how to get out of the jar because none of them have ever been. Like, number one, you're not gonna get there by yourself, straight up.
No.
So, like, if I guarantee you, if one flea can jump to the top of the top of the jar by itself, I guarantee you, if that flea, you know, had 4 or 5 other fleas stand with him, and then he jumped from them, he could get out.
Oh yeah, for sure. Even if you put that thought process to it, and that's it's like an environment thing, and that's what we're saying. Like, I hate to make it like a racial lines thing, but hell, you don't have to do that. You take a country white kid and a inner city black kid, and you only show them the hood per se, and only show the other kid tractors and cornfields, and you never show them the opposite side of what their worlds could be and what else they could do. They only know their limitations. They don't know, and the only reason they know those limitations is because that's the limitations you exposed them to. So if you took an inner city kid and you took him to Wall Street and you showed him everybody making money off trading stocks and bonds, and you took him and showed him some people that started their bodegas and showed entrepreneurship and showed them that, hey, we might live in this cranked up apartment right now, but you can have so much more. Or you took that country kid and you brought him to the city and you should let him see these tall buildings. You let him see people hustling and bustling and making money other ways besides growing crops. And you got to show people a different lifestyle and show them that something's possible, that you're not trapped in whatever I'm doing. Like I tell my kids all the time, and they're young, I tell them all the time, whatever I'm doing right now, I'm only setting the bar for you to be higher than it. So whatever I accomplish, I'm gonna help you come where I am, and I want to lift you up. I want you to get further in life than where I am. So if I become a millionaire, then I need my kids to be billionaires. Like whatever I set the bar at, I need them to surpass. And I mean that could be high standards, but that's my goal. I mean, if it doesn't happen, then we'll get to that bridge when we cross it. But my goal is to set them up for a life where they know anything is possible.
Facts. I fully agree. I always tell folks I don't want to be Donald Trump. And not for the reason everybody's thinking of right now. He's obviously Donald Trump. Nobody wants to be him. I do want to be Fred Trump. Fred Trump is his dad. Fred Trump is the reason Donald Trump is who he is right now. Right? Everybody's like, okay, he's a self-made man, but he took out a loan from his father of $1 million. His father had $1 million to give him to be who he is today.
Yeah.
His father put a financial spark as well as a business mindset into his brain to build him into the person he is. And from that base, essentially, Donald Trump was built. Right?
Yeah.
So like I said, I want to be Fred Trump. I want to be Kris Jenner. You know what I mean? I want to be like Kylie Jenner is, I think, a billionaire at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, just think about it. Like, all stemming from the foundation her sister put out, whether that foundation was a positive or negative one in the first place. Like, she took that foundation and ran with it, and it hasn't been stopped since.
Oh yeah.
It's like I can only imagine what Blue Ivy is going to be like in the next 15, 20 years when she grows up.
What did Jay-Z say? He bought some artwork and all that other stuff to give to her. He bought like $1 million painting to give to her. So by the time she's older and say she decides to sell that painting is going to be infinitely worth more than whatever Jay-Z bought it for. It's
Absolutely.
all about doing what you got to do to secure the future for your family tomorrow. So like I said, just because, let's just say, let's go back to that goldfish. Just because, let's say we keep popping bowls, now we're in a large tank, and maybe we never get the chance to get out that tank into the giant aquarium. But if I get the chance to show my kids that, hey, look, I went from a fish bowl to this little cubicle tank over here to this tank to here, so I know that you can get from here to the aquarium and from the aquarium to the ocean. You just got to instill that mindset that there's always something bigger, always something more, and it doesn't have to end at where you're at.
Exactly. It's like that concept of sacrifice, right? Like we talked about the fleas in the jar. So the problem with that is, right, as soon as the idea comes up that, okay, one of us can get out of the 5 of us that help do it, right? It's like 4 people are going to be like, well, nah, I want to be the one guy that jumps and gets out. But it's like at the same time,
crabs in a barrel.
Exactly. That's exactly what happens. It's like, all right, it's a weird scenario, right? Because it's like if one person makes a sacrifice that helps me get out, then suddenly that one person has pushed somebody forward and become a sacrifice to a better base, a better stepping stone. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you see it all the time in hood movies where you see like Boys in the Hood. Like Ricky was the athlete, the football player. Like he was the one who's going to get out of the hood. They never wanted him to be a part of any of that, like that gangster lifestyle. Oh, yeah. But because he was affiliated with them, that's just what happened to him.
There's countless sports movies that are like that. I don't know what you're referencing, where they protect the star, the guy, the one guy they think can get out and change their life circumstances, and then typically something tragic happens, or vice versa. I think I've seen like one movie where they protected the guy, he got out the hood, and he pulled a LeBron. He brought his team with him. He came back and he did charity for the neighborhood because the neighborhood looked out for him, that makes sure he escaped the controversies of the neighborhood and everything that was happening.
Right. I don't know if you watch Blackish, that show with Anthony Anderson. With Anthony Anderson. They had an episode where I believe it was Method Man that came in and was his cousin, like cousin Pookie or something like that.
Yeah.
But he always felt like Pookie didn't like him. You know what I mean? He always felt like Pookie didn't, want to hang out with him because, Blackish is like the ultimate black show at this point because it's like, all right, Dre came from the hood, Bo is like a mixed child,
Yeah.
It's the ultimate like black-ish show, obviously. So obviously they're cousins, they love each other, but they have, like, Dre feels like there's this weird relationship with them. Like, I don't think it was Method Man actually, but that's not the point. Anyway, his cousin is super hood, like, is gangster, whatever. But Dre feels like he doesn't like his cousin doesn't like him. But what unbeknownst to him, there was an incident where his cousin he was driving. He was riding with his cousin. His cousin was driving. He was in the passenger seat. His cousin opened the door and pushed him out of the car. And Andre always thought that was a joke, like, you know, just something that his cousin would just did to him to, like, you know, make fun of him or whatever. But
Yeah.
in reality, what happened was he pushed him out of the car because he knew he was about to get pulled over, and he had guns and drugs in the car. So he threw his cousin out of the car because he didn't want him to be associated with that. He did that out of love.
Yeah,
He exactly. He made the sacrifice to keep Dre out of trouble.
And
that's kind
so that's the mindset we kind of really got to have going forward. Like, we got to find ways to build up ourselves first. I would say our family, as in our kids and the loved ones that are close to us, and then in return find a bigger way to maybe one day bring up the neighborhood. Like I said, we don't always got to move out. Like, I'm gonna phrase this: you can move out the hood, as in you can move out that square space of where you grew up at. But do you ever really want to forget that? I mean, there's going to be somebody else growing up in that situation, and if you were able to make it out, I feel like you should be an inspiration for getting out of it. And I'm not saying move back to it and live in there, but you should at least frequent it to a point where these kids and everybody else can have hope.
exactly. I mean, well, okay. I don't agree with the frequent part because, so okay, let's go back to the flea scenario, right?
Yeah.
So if there are a bunch of fleas, let's say there are 10 fleas in a jar, 5 fleas get together so that one flea can get out. If that one flea attempts to go back to that environment to show the other fleas and tell the other fleas what it's like on the outside, at that point, it's going to be at least 3 or 4 fleas to get jealous. And at that point, those 3 or 4 fleas are going to try to prevent that first flea from going back to the life he already experienced, right?
Yeah.
Because it's that crabs in a barrel mentality. That jealousy eats away at people. So I would say rather than going back to that environment, I would say instead of him going back in that jar, I would ask him to find a way to knock it over. Like to find a way to like LeBron James, right? LeBron don't go back to the hood that he was originally from. Like he just don't go back there. But what he does do is those philanthropic things that give kids an opportunity to get out. He creates a tunnel in the side of that jar that makes it easier for people to get out, as opposed to having to make all these sacrifices to get one person out. Suddenly, from the outside of the jar, he's created a system to where everybody can get out should they choose to go through that tunnel.
I got you. It's like a school. He might not necessarily. He built the school in Ohio, and he offers scholarships for kids to get out of the inner city to go to a school and stuff like that. But he's not out there on the block and whatever. And when I say frequent, I don't mean like monthly, weekly, whatever. But I mean like, you know, these NFL players, they host a go back to school event where they show up, they give out book bags, or they might host a little Play 60 event, just something where you can interact with it. And that's my mindset. Like, maybe have like a cookout or something where you can just deal with the community. Maybe even if it's like once a year or something like that, just something that's tangible for the youth. I'm not, like I said, when I say go back to the hood, I definitely don't mean sit in an environment, because you sit there in an environment. I hate to, you know, bring him up, God rest his soul, but like, look at Nipsey. Nipsey was very, very instrumental in things happening around his hood and all that. He was out there daily, and he was around that daily because he felt like he wanted to give the people something tangible to see and how to get out. And what happened was somebody that, you know, I guess they ushered along or whatever, that jealousy festered in them, it manifested in them, and then what happened.
Exactly.
This concludes part 1 of episode 2 of the Spare Keys podcast. Hope that you picked up some jewels and some gems along the way as we continue to have our discussions. We ask that you come back next week for part 2 of this conversation, where we talk about how to build your team and how to take that time that you don't think you have and invest it back into yourself to follow your passions and your dreams and achieve your goals. Once again, this is your boy Shell, signing out. Catch you on the